Good morning, DFW. I am Anthony Cernilia with Ask the Experts radio show on Talk Radio 1190. Today our expert is Darrin from Olympic Restoration Systems. First off, let's get their website. It's olympicrestoration.com or call them at 888-756-5967. All right, without further ado, let's bring Darrin on the show. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you for being here. We do appreciate it. Our topic today is crawl spaces. All right, Darrin, what is a crawl space?
Well, there's different kinds of foundations for homes, and the most common in the DFW area is what they call slab on grade. And so that's just basically a concrete slab sitting right on the soil. But then there's also a type called pier and beam foundation, and that's where there's piers, and then the house is built up with beams going across these piers, which support the house. And so you end up with an area where you can actually go under the house, and that's known as a crawl space because you have to crawl.
Okay. What kind of problems can you have in a crawl space, and how do you know if you have them?
Okay, there's all kinds of different problems that can arise, mostly due to moisture in the crawl space. And they reveal themselves in different forms. Sometimes people will see cupped flooring to lay down new wood floors, and over maybe weeks or a few months, they'll start to see this waviness in the floors. And that's because that moisture is coming up from the crawl space. Sometimes they have odors that they smell. It just smells musty in the house. Or sometimes it's just humid in the house. It's extra humid, and it seems like their AC is working fine, but yet there's this extra humidity.
And I would assume, is this attributed to more of your older homes or more so than your newer homes?
It's not really distinguished, because there are a lot of older homes with a pier and beam foundation, but there are some newer homes that also have that, and they can have very much the same problems.
Okay. And obviously with the rain we're having here in North Texas, this is definitely a topic of the hour.
Yes, it is. We've had a lot of calls lately.
I bet. And I guess how big of a problem is mold in a crawl space?
Well, it all depends on the moisture. So ideal conditions for mold are dark, still, humidity above 60%, and a food source. And so in a crawl space without any kind of protection, usually all of those tick marks are checked off because you have all of it in the crawl space.
I bet. So, and don't all crawl spaces have mold, or?
Well, not really. I mean, we go in a lot of crawl spaces, and it seems like they all do because the ones that we get called into typically have it. But there are some that don't have mold, and it's just a matter of maintaining the conditions right so it doesn't support that mold growth.
You know, I can tell you, I don't like mold. Mold is one of those things, with breathing, and that's first and foremost. But I guess with you saying how it warps the floor, is that pretty much a telltale sign you have a problem?
Yes, and it's not necessarily an indication of mold, but it's an indication of high humidity, high moisture, right? And on the just on the mold issue, if you disregard any potential health effects, the purpose of mold in nature is to decompose fallen leaves and trees. And so if it's in your crawl space, it is doing that to the structure of your home. It's starting to decompose that wood.
It's like eating away at it?
Exactly.
Almost like a termite?
Yes, very much so.
Wow. So and it's obviously making the wood not as sturdy as it should be. So I would assume that this attributes to the integrity of the structure? It
could very much so, yes. If over time that mold, if it starts to embed itself in the wood and decompose that wood, then yes, you definitely lose structural integrity.
What can I do if water is building up in my crawl space?
Okay, so there's different kinds of moisture or water issues, and the first is if you actually do have water, like puddling water, or it's pooling in there, or it's kind of flowing in.
Yeah.
And in those cases, you can put in a system that would capture that water as it comes in and take it to a sump pump and then pump it out of the crawl space. And so while water may find its way in or even seep up from the ground, it can go to this drainage system and then be pumped out.
So after you make sure the water doesn't accumulate in the crawl space, do you recommend ventilation of something to help try to dry it out?
We actually don't, and that's probably something that will will be a surprise to a lot of people, because if you just ask, 90 people out of 100, hey, I have moisture in my crawl space, what should I do? They're going to say add vents. And that's what all that people have known for years, since they've built these houses. But what we found is that outside, it's in the summertime here, it's hot and humid, right? In a crawl space, it's a little bit cooler than outside. It's cooler because it's shaded, the ground has a more consistent temperature, and the house cools the floors. And so that coolness from the house gets translated down into the wood in the crawl space.
The whole thing heat
right?
rises.
Yes. And so you take this hot air that's full of moisture from outside and you bring it in through those vents, and it condenses onto the surfaces, those cool surfaces. Just like if you set a glass of ice water out, how the water collects on the outside of the glass.
The condensation.
It's the same theory. And so really, instead of picking up moisture and taking it out, it really is bringing in moisture and dropping it off. Yes. It's exactly the opposite of what the effect of what people want.
Would you want to take the ventilation out if you could?
Yes, but we don't want to do that alone. We actually do believe that we should seal the vents, close them off.
Okay.
But you have to take another step, which is put a vapor barrier on the ground.
Okay.
We want to isolate the house from the earth, and that means put a vapor barrier on the ground, and it gets sealed to the walls, the foundation walls, and around the piers. So all the moisture that comes up from the ground gets blocked.
Okay.
And so that's after we've handled any potential actual water issues. Now we want to take the water vapor and block it, keep it below that barrier.
So you're trying to create a desired environment.
That's right. And there actually is one more step. So we'd take care of the actual groundwater seepage. Then we put the vapor barrier down to keep the moisture from the earth coming up.
Okay.
Seal the vents to keep that vapor from coming outside in. And then we add a dehumidifier to the crawl space. And this dehumidifier is placed in there so we maintain the humidity level below 60%. So now we kind of have like a sealed up box. It's almost like if you think of it as part of the house, it's contained.
Yeah.
Nothing's coming in or out. And so this dehumidifier just controls it, makes sure that we stay below that 60% relative humidity level, where we know, because if we get above that, it will support mold growth.
The recommendation of, I guess, doing more ventilation once you've gotten there to help dry it out, is that something you recommend, or no? Just get in there and let you just take over?
That's right. I do not recommend ventilation. Ventilation if our outside air was, if we were in Arizona and we had dry air outside, then it'd be great because we'd be pushing this dry air. It could pick up moisture and carry it on. But we're in a humid climate, and so we are really just continuing to add moisture if we ventilate. Very
much so. For everybody getting out and out of their cars, we're speaking with Darrin with Olympic Restoration Systems. If you want to give them a call, it's 888-756-5967 or online at olympicrestoration.com. Once again, the phone number 888-756-5967. All right, Darrin, with the houses in the area which have been around for 50, 60, 70, even 100 years or more without being encapsulated, as you described, how do you explain how they survived for so long, but now they seem to have issues that have never existed before?
Okay, that's a great question. And we get asked that a lot. People want to know, well, you're saying that this needs to happen, but this house has survived for so long without that, so kind of suspicious of what you're saying.
Right.
But here's what's also happening is when those houses were built, a lot of them didn't have central air conditioning, central AC, but now they do. And also the houses get remodeled and they get insulated, so they're tighter houses. So in the early years of the house, there wasn't a big environmental difference below and above. It's pretty close to the same temperature.
Yeah.
And then the house really breathed, so the air that humidity would come up through the house and out, and it didn't get trapped anywhere. Okay. But now there's a big difference. It's much cooler above than below, and the house is tight, so that air has no place to go. And so it really is a change in the structure. And so now that humidity builds up underneath and it kind of stays underneath and it starts to get trapped. And so there really is a difference, even though it's the same house that was built, years and years ago.
And it creates a bad situation.
That's right.
All right, Darrin, with water that exists in the soil, if you handle the water that might puddle or build up in the crawl space, as you described, and put a vapor barrier down, won't there still be a lot of moisture in the ground? And could that cause any negative effects?
Okay, another great question, because Yes. While we do not want to leave pooled water under our liner, having moisture right there is really fine, because the biggest thing for maintaining a foundation of a house is you want to maintain a consistent moisture level in the soil.
Okay.
And so when you have these dramatic changes from dry to wet, then you'll see the house rise and fall, because when the ground is wet, it swells, and when it dries, it shrinks. And so you'll have these piers that kind of try to move with that soil.
Okay.
But if we can maintain that more consistently, then it actually improves the stability of the home. And by trapping that moisture, if we had a long period of dryness, it would eventually kind of dry from, slowly migrating through the soil out. But it's a much slower process, and so it maintains a more consistent moisture level, which really does improve it.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and go to break here. And once again, the phone number is 888-756-5967. I'm speaking with Darrin with Olympic Restoration Systems. They're online at olympicrestoration.com. And again, their phone number, 888-756-5967. All right, Darrin, if you'd hold on for me real quick, we'll be right back. I'm Anthony Cernelia with Ask the Experts Radio Show on Talk Radio 1190. We'll be right back after these messages. At Olympic Restoration Systems, they know how important your home is, and they want to do whatever it takes to make it as comfortable and healthy as possible. Olympic Restoration Systems is a family-owned company that has been in business now since 2005. Your home is a system, and every part of that system plays a role that affects the rest of the structure. If your crawl space begins to rot, grow mold, or experience structural problems, this will extend to every part of your home. At Olympic Restoration Systems, they specialize in crawl space problems of all types. Whatever your issue, they have the products and experience that you need to find the best solution. They offer free repair quotes. Crawl Space Repair will help you avoid unnecessary repairs, create a healthier living space, and save money on your utility bills. And once you've encapsulated your crawl space with a vapor barrier, you've gained valuable storage space in your home. Contact Olympic Restoration Systems today. They have answers to your questions. They're here for you. Call 888-756-5967. That's 888-756-5967. Welcome back to Ask the Experts Radio Show. I'm Anthony Cernelia. I'm once again here with Darrin with Olympic Restoration Systems. If you'd like to call them, it's 888-756-5967 or on the web at olympicrestoration.com. Again, that's 888-756-5967. All right, Darrin, jumping back into once you've done your service and you've come out, and does this create a better quality of indoor living?
Yes, absolutely. One of the things I didn't mention, when there's not a vapor barrier and that water vapor is passing up through the house, it does a couple things. One is the obvious, it adds humidity to the home, and so it can make your house just feel sticky and not comfortable. And it also opens up the environment inside the home to have potential mold growth, but it is uncomfortable. But another thing is that those water vapors carry particles with them. And so any kind of mold or small dust particles, stuff like that, that's in the crawl space gets carried with those water vapors into the home. And so it can then trigger allergens and those types of symptoms just by walking in the house. And so when you cut that off with that vapor barrier and you seal it up like this, you stop that process. And so the indoor air quality actually is significantly improved by just stopping that process. Yes.
I know anytime you can create a better indoor quality of life, that's, a plus in my column.
Mm-hmm.
And you had said something, I guess, when we were off the air about, could you elaborate on that? I forgot what you were saying, but I knew you said something about the floors.
Right. Yeah, no, the floors are warmer in the winter, was what I was saying, because when you seal those vents and you no longer have that cold, and in the wintertime, the air's not so humid, right?
Yeah.
It's going to make them warmer in the wintertime.
That's right.
Yes, because in the winter, the air isn't so humid outside, but it's cold. So if you have those vents open and you have that cold air coming into your crawl space, then it actually makes your floors cold. And so a lot of people, or I should say some people, have actually purchased our system because of the fact that even though we're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, their floors are so cold in the winter that they're trying to help that problem, and this does help that problem.
Especially if you have a wood-type floor. Here in Texas, we don't just have rain, and we don't just have cold. If it's cold and we have ice,
right?
We have like the ice bowl. With that said, your service, when like say something with the weather, with ice and snow, does this barrier help keep the house warm as well?
Yes, it actually does. It does a number of things. And you triggered a thought. This isn't exactly what you asked, but one of the things is, a lot of the piping is under the house in these types of foundations, and so those pipes can tend to freeze when we have these really cold temperatures. But when it's sealed up, like we're talking about, it's insulated from that, so it really protects your pipes as well. It's kind of like a secondary effect of all this, but it does help. And then, just the overall.
So when they tell you to keep your faucets dripping, this would actually help you from not having to keep your faucets from dripping, correct?
Yes, for the most part, as long as they're insulated in the walls too.
Yeah, and I guess you can't do anything about that. But with, I guess, crawl space and, are there different types of crawl spaces? Are they bigger, smaller, shorter, longer than others?
Oh, definitely. I wish they were all tall, but unfortunately, most of ours around here are 14 to 18 inches in height.
Not to be racist, so do you have little people working for you? No, I'm just joking.
We have all sizes, but the smaller ones definitely carry a lot of the work.
All right. Well, I do know that with your service, we've talked. It'll help create a positive effect of different situations in your house. One being the indoor quality with health, and also, like you said, it would help create a barrier from the weather from the outside coming in through your floors, which is probably going to help save on energy as well, I would assume.
Yes, very much so. And we haven't even touched on that really, but the U.S. Department of Energy did a study on houses, pier and beam houses, with open crawl spaces compared to those with closed crawl spaces. And they found there's a 15 to 18% energy savings if you have a closed crawl space. Right.
15 to 18%?
Which is big. And
that's huge.
If you talk to somebody about energy savings in a house, one of the first things they'll do on this type of foundation is encapsulate the crawl space because it's such a big hit to the overall
And I would assume
efficiency.
That would affect the value of the house.
Yeah, of course, it's going to make the house more energy efficient. You're going to reduce your energy bills and save that way. So it kind of pays for itself through that. But also, in terms of the value of the house, if you just take two buyers and they go to two houses, they like both of them, but one of them looks underneath and they see this dank, dark, water infested, and all the things that come with that. We didn't even talk about the termites and the rats and all the pests that love those type of environments.
Yeah.
If you put this system in that's white and bright and clean, and your buyer looks into this house with this system, it's going to be, a much better impression.
You're creating a environment for the pest environments to stay out of.
That's right, because they like it dark and damp.
And I know my wife would be on board with that, because I can tell you, I was born in Louisiana, and, being muggy, mildewy, and it's just, I can tell you, I've seen, and there's a lot of pier and beam in Louisiana.
Yes.
And there's some environments you don't want to come across.
That is so true.
And, if you're creating and pretty much cleaning out that crawl space, that's going to do nothing but positive effects. I mean, your service seems like a service. It's like almost like a get this done because, I mean, why not?
Right. Yeah. Our biggest issue is just people being aware of the service because it's just been for so many years of people just saying just add vents.
They just don't know.
Right. They just don't know about it.
Yeah. Add vents to your roofs, people, not your crawl space.
That's right. That's right.
Anyways, once again, let's get your phone number. It's 888-756-5967 or olympicrestoration.com or 888-756-5967. If you'd like to talk to Darrin about getting in your crawl space and have him create a positive crawl space for you, I'm assuming that he'd be more than willing. That being said, with energy savings and health quality of life and with putting the barrier down, is there anything that with them putting the barrier down you would also suggest, or is, once you've done the crawl space, are you done, or is there something they can call you back?
Well, we did a very high level of the service, and there are some different things. We actually put a drainage matting component underneath this vapor barrier, which adds to it protects the vapor barrier, makes it stronger, adds a little pathway for moisture to kind of flow. And so there's some different things that we do that add to this.
I know there's they have a name for it.
What kind of drain?
Yeah.
You're thinking of a French drain, maybe?
Yeah, French drain.
Yeah, those typically would go on your outside foundation, but we actually put a very similar solution inside the crawl space. It's very similar to a French drain inside the crawl space, tied to a sump pump and then pumped out.
So I'm assuming, like, if you can't create the levelness, that's when you bring in a sump pump. If you can't get the water to stay out, you put one in there permanently, so it makes sure. I guess, is it 100% of the time you have a sump pump on the crawl space, or is it, if we can create it to where it's above it, we don't need it?
That's a good question, because there are some houses that really have no issue with water flowing in. And in those cases, a sump pump's not absolutely required. Some people like to go ahead and proceed with one just in case a pipe broke, or we had this massive amount of rain where they had never seen water before, but they're afraid they might. And so
that's happening a lot these days in North Texas.
Right, exactly.
Well, actually all around, but yeah, we've just recently had our fair share of too much.
That's right. We've had plenty.
But with mold remediation and radon mitigation, this is obviously a service that you offer to a new home buyer, or somebody trying to sell their home, or somebody that's living in their home.
Anybody.
So anyone.
Yeah, our mission is to help our customers have healthier homes and lives. And so all of our services are geared toward that. Okay. And the radon mitigation, again, it's a subject a lot of people don't know about because it's not real common here in Texas to have radon gas issues, but there are pockets.
Yeah.
And they tie in very nicely with this encapsulation system, because you just, at a high level, you put a fan and it draws air from underneath that liner and it makes sure that gas doesn't come up from the air and go from the ground and go into the house. It gets taken out and exhausted above the roof line so people don't have to breathe it. Radon can cause lung cancer. It's one of the leading causes of lung cancer, in fact.
Wow. And obviously that's one thing that's not talked about.
Right. Not nearly enough.
I'm learning. It's actually like I'm in school right now.
That's right.
All right. I guess before we leave today, is there anything else you'd like our listeners to know about Olympic Restoration Systems, sir?
I just would like to reiterate that our mission really is to help our customers have healthier homes and lives. We have a number of services that all evolve around. We feel like when you make someone's home healthier, that's how we make their life healthier. Yeah. So we don't really have diets or those types of plans. It's all just making where they live every day healthier. And so we have a number of systems to help with that, to protect against bad things that they don't want in their house, and to help their air quality be as good as possible.
I know, myself, anything that creates a healthier living area is bar none. Let's do it. How much doesn't really matter, because health comes over anything, if you ask me. Especially, if you're dealing with, I would say, with all the moisture that is in the air that is created here in Texas, the little things you can do. I mean, obviously, this little thing with this, encapsulating the crawl space is huge down the road. I mean, you just said, cancer causing. I mean, this is not just keeping the varmints out, people. This is helping the quality of life, helping your health, and also keeping the varmints out. Right. But at the end of the day, creating a 100%, would it be 110% positive effect on your crawl space?
It's a much better, the crawl space is then protected, which is the structure of the home, right? That is the foundation of the home. So if you protect that, then your house lasts even longer. And then the other benefit, obviously, is to their personal health, because when we protect that foundation, we stop the bad stuff in there, it keeps it from coming up in the house and affecting it that way.
That's awesome, Darrin. Well, thank you very much for coming in today and speaking with us. Let's get your number one more time. It's 888-756-5967, or on the web at olympicrestorations.com. That's 888-756-5967. Thank you very much, Darrin. I do appreciate your time. I'm Anthony Cernilia with Ask the Experts radio show on Talk Radio 1190. You have a great day.